Hi, everybody, and happy Tuesday. We're going to be talking about some fractions today on homework, so let's get started. Now, on this first one, I'm going to tell you I made a mistake. So we're actually going to pretend like this entire last row here isn't here, and we're going to look at the picture without any of that being there. So basically, we're just looking from up, and I'll tell you guys this in class so that you know. All right. So on this particular picture, we're trying to shade 3/5. Now, the denominator here tells me how many groups that my picture is going to be shaded into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle this group. So I know there needs to be 5 different groups. So I'm looking for 5 somewhere within this picture. Now I see 5 if I look this way. There's 1 group, there's 2 groups. There's 3, there's 4, and there's 5. 5 separate groups. Now, if I'm shading, well, first off, if there's 5 separate groups, I know within each of those groups, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different squares. That means that a fifth of that picture is 6. Now, if I want to shade 3/5, I'm just going to shade 3 out of 5 of those rows. Now, if a fifth was 6 boxes, then 3/5 is going to be 3 times that, which is going to be 18 out of the total. Okay, let's see if we can do the same thing over here. So over here, again, we're shading fifths. So again, I need to find 5 different groups here. Notice across we have 11, but down we have 5. So I'm going to circle 1, 2, 3. Sorry, it's hard to see. 4, and the top row is 5. And again, I'm going to shade 3 of those to tell myself what 3/5 would look like. All right. So moving down here. All right. So it says solve each problem below, and we're trying to think about adding and subtracting fractions here and thinking about what we need to do. Now, on this first one, I notice I have 3 2/3 and 12 3/5. Now, the first thing that pops out to me is that if I added 3 and 12 together, that's going to give me 15. But when I look at the fractions 2/3 and 3/5, I immediately think, well, both of those fractions are more than half. So I know that's going to at least give me that extra whole. So that's something to think about right from the start. Now, second thing I want to think about is making a common denominator here. Now, a common denominator between 3 and 5, which we can find by writing down our multiples. Remember, we're looking for the least common multiple. 3, 6, 9, 12, 5, 10, 15, 15. And there's our common denominator in this particular case. So we have 3 and some 15ths plus 12 and some 15ths. Now, I know to get to 15, I multiplied 3 times 5. So I'm going to do the same to my numerator, which is going to give me 10. To get 5 times 15, I multiplied by 3. Same to my numerators, which is going to give me 9. Now, at this point, all we're doing is adding those fractional pieces together. So 3 and 10/15 plus 12 and 9/15. Well, I know that 3 and 12 gives me 15. And then what I'm thinking in this case is if I look at this fraction, I'm thinking to myself, what does that fraction need in order to make it to a whole? Well, I know that 15 I know that 15 15/15. Hold on, guys, I got the chart. I know that 15/15 is equivalent to a whole. Change of scenery. So I know that know that 15. I have to use the mouse. I know that 15/15 is equivalent to 1 whole. So we're trying to say, what would I need to add to 10/15 in order to get to a whole? Well, I know that in order for this 10/15 to get to a whole, I am going to need to add 5 more 15ths. Now, if I look at my other fraction, which is 9/15 over here, I know that particular my pen's not working. That's okay. I know that if I'm looking at my 9/15 that I have more, so my 9/15 here, I know that I have more than 5/15 to give. So if I give that 5/15, that's going to be my extra whole, which is going to bump this up to a 16. We just have to then think, what is left in that particular fraction? All right. This is gonna be a little hard to read this last part because the pen's not working. So my second question over here, I'm thinking subtraction. The first thing, I'm not gonna give you too much information on this one, but the first thing I want you to be aware of is if we're taking a 12th and we're subtracting away 5/6, the first thing that immediately pops out to me is that 5/6 is almost a whole and a 12th is a really small fraction. So I know that I'm going to have to regroup here because I'm taking away a larger fractions from a smaller fraction. So we're going to have to cut into that whole number. Think about how to do that. All right, let's go to that word problem. So for my word problem, it says this week is Nathan's hot dog eating week. Kevin is going to try to break the world record for hot dogs eaten in a week. He has so far eaten 9 3/4 on Monday, 10 5/6 on Tuesday, and 7 1/3 on Wednesday. If the world record is 12,000 in a week, how many more does he need to eat over the rest of the week to break the record? I'm gonna just talk you through this since my pen's not working. So if we're first thinking about our important information, well, we know that he's eaten 9 3/4 on Monday. He's eaten 10 5/6 on Tuesday and 7 1/3 on Wednesday. So I know that's the total that he's eaten so far those 3 days. Now, I also know that the world record is 12,000 in a week, 12,000 hot dogs. So the question is saying, how much more does he still need to eat? Well, when I'm thinking of what to do, I'm thinking, well, what if I combined the amount that he's so far eaten this week? If I knew the total of these 3 numbers, I could just then subtract from that 12,000. Now, when you do subtract from that 12,000, I want to remind you of something. Remember that 12,000 does not have a fraction with it, but remember that when we go to regroup from this, 1 less than 12,000 is 11,999. Sorry, it's hard to write with this. We can go to regroup as long as we take away a whole and add 1 back. When we go to regroup from that, we can do so. So think about that at this point. You're trying to find out the difference or the rest, which is subtracting from that 12,000. Sorry about the pen on today's video, guys. I'll try to get that fixed for tomorrow. See you guys later in class.